You're at the cookout. What are you most likely doing?
Barbecue.
You're on the grill.
On the grill.
On the grill. On the grill.
100%.
There you go. Now,
on the grill.
Do you have the whole setup? Do you have the sandals, the apron, everything?
It's not just the sandals, it's the sandals with the white socks.
There you go.
And then the apron, that is totally me.
What's up, everybody? We're back with another episode of the Black Student Success Podcast, brought to you by InQuire Hire, where we talk to successful Black professionals and get their insight and guidance on their careers and how they got to the point that they're at. My name is InQuire, and as always, we appreciate the support, all the listeners and everything. So for today, if you ever, hear just real estate or just hear the mention of real estate, the first job you're probably thinking of is the real estate agent. So the person showing the houses, doing the open houses and things like that. But a job just as important as finding the house, I would say, is finding the money or the loan to actually buy the house. So today's guest has about 15 years within this industry, and he's going to talk about his experiences as a mortgage loan originator and just kind of what his day-to-day looks like, what type of work that he does kind of within that whole home buying process. And he's also a proud member of Iota Phi Theta Fraternity Incorporated. Let's welcome Jason Mitchell to the show. What's going on, man?
Hey, what's going on, man? Listen, thank you so much for the opportunity to help out with this. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, thank you for your time and being able to share your story. So we're going to start the show how we always do, by starting off with, who is Jason Mitchell?
So great question. So Jason Mitchell is husband to a fantastic wife of 12 years named Lashana. I'm a father to two great boys, 6 and 3, Blake and my foster child. Baby I, we'll call him. And, just an all around good guy that loves to serve people, loves to serve humanity, and was just, blessed with the opportunity to do this in the real estate, in the fashion of real estate transactions, man. So that's essentially me in a nutshell. Regular down to earth guy who just loves to help people.
Perfect. So why don't you talk about your understanding of, real estate and the industry itself before you actually got into it?
So it was very novice, to be honest with you. I had come into the industry. Most people who are in the mortgage industry or in real estate in general kind of stumble into the industry. It's not something they go to college saying that they want to do, even though now I guess there's courses and things available for it. But for the most part, for me, it was going from one position into another. I actually began in an operations role within the mortgage industry, and that essentially supporting our salespeople in the field, making sure that the documents and everything looks good for the clients and our team. Not to get into the weeds, but we're the operations side is a big portion of what sales is. It's what makes us successful, to be honest with you. So I stumbled into that, did that for about 7 years. And then I had an opportunity to go into the sales side, which is really the front face of the industry, talking to people, helping them to find mortgages that suit their needs and help them in any way I can to afford the dream of homeownership.
Perfect. And when it came to the operation side, was that kind of like your entry level type of position kind of within this industry before you were moving up?
Yeah, it was my entry level position. There are different ways to get into the sales side, the originating side of the business. Some people come my way, of which we learned the one portion of the business first, which is essentially, like I said, collecting of documentation. And typical documentation when you're looking at a mortgage transaction is pay stubs, bank statements, W-2s, not only how to look at them, but not only just in collecting of them, but how to look at them, how to analyze them and make sure that a client is eligible for mortgage financing. And so I did that for a good portion of my business or for my industry. Or for my career before launching into the business sales side of it. And that to me was tremendously helpful because it just gave me an opportunity to look at things from a different perspective. We in the operations side are kind of the back end of the transaction. So we're the people that help the client, help the underwriters decide as to whether or not they're going to allow this mortgage to happen, which is great. And so by doing that, by having that having that in my belt or in my toolkit, I was able to essentially jump into the sales side with that experience already in hand, which made it a lot easier for me to attract clients with that background.
Right. Yeah. Because you got an understanding of what happens behind the scenes, so that you're able to, translate any of that stuff to the consumer or that person trying to buy that house.
Yes, sir.
Perfect. Now let's actually kind of talk about what, where you kind of fall within that timeline in terms of the, whether it's the operations or the sales sides when it comes to trying to find that loan for that potential home buyer. Where do you fall within that track?
So in the steps of a mortgage or in a real estate transaction, the very first step is finding out what you're eligible for. A real estate agent's not going to typically take you out to go view properties or to see homes unless they know what you qualify for. Okay. They believe in making sure that when we're aiming at a target, we hit it every single time. Then we have a good frame of what the client can afford, if the payment makes sense, and what the price of the home should be around, so that the agent can go forth with an excellence, and making sure that they're finding the right home for the client that fits their needs and also fits their budget. So the mortgage loan officer or the mortgage consultant, which is what I do, we're the very first of who the client sees. We have a conversation, we have a consultation where we talk about the mortgage transaction. I deal a lot with first-time home buyers, and they have typically a lot of questions. And sometimes they don't know what to ask because this is their very first time doing this transaction. Doing one of the biggest financial decisions they have in their life. So with us, what we do is we have that great consultation. We talk about the components of a pre-approval. We talk about what they can afford and if it makes sense. We talk about what that looks like as far as a pre-approval, so that the real estate agent can then create a search for them that's designed around that pre-approval.
Nice. So you're doing a lot of advising in this position where when you're talking to the people kind of in that first step. And I'm not sure if a lot of people know kind of what that actually looks like, because again, we hear a lot about the real estate agent, but at least for me personally, kind of before getting into that space and understanding a little bit more of what happens, we don't know what kind of conversations happen before we're starting to do these tours and these open houses and things like that. But it actually starts with you, trying to figure out, what their boundaries are, so that you're able to provide, again, that really good advice, for, getting prepared to that point, or, whatever those next steps are.
Right. So essentially what we do is I like to make it make sense, because if it makes sense, then they're able to easily make decisions. So my mission when people come to me for home ownership needs or for mortgage needs or what have you, is to make sure that I help them and I empower them to be able to make the most well-informed decision possible. And so the first thing that they typically ask me is well, what exactly am I doing? What is a pre-approval made up of? And I talk them through it. A pre-approval is essentially 4 components. Okay, you have your credit, which is what you have on your debts that's being paid out monthly. And your credit also encompasses any sort of judgments, bankruptcies, foreclosures, anything as it relates to credit that has an impact on the bank making decisions as it pertains to whether or not you can afford the home. It's one of the big components that we look at. We look at income. So what do you make? How are you paid? Paid on the 15th and the 30th, or are you self-employed? How long have you been working in those fields? We have those deep dives and conversation as it relates to income and what makes them, and what they receive as far as compensation and their ability to repay. Okay, so credit and income are family members. They work hand in hand for us to determine what they qualify for. The other component is assets. So what do you have in the bank? What type of bank accounts do you have? And then the last piece is what type of property you're looking for, because depending on what type of property they look for will determine, how they can, what different ways that we can review the pre-approval. Okay, because being pre-approved for a single family residence may be a little different than being approved for a condo or a townhome or a multifamily building, because there's different criteria as to what the qualification guidelines are in order for us to make that decision. So when we look at all four of those components, that's what makes up the pre-approval. So the lender essentially has a great length of conversation, or they should, about all of these pieces to make sure that it all makes sense for the client when they're looking to purchase a home. And then as they break that information down, that's when they become really informed as to how everything works, so that we can make an informed decision on the home that they choose.
Perfect. So it sounds like there's, a bit of, just really having a really good knowledge base of the type of homes, like you said, those four components that even just kind of go into that pre-approval, as
Right.
well as that people facing, side in terms of, creating those relationships and getting an understanding of what they're looking for based on just that really deep conversation that you're having. So what are those types of skills or personality traits that make, someone in your position as a mortgage loan originator or officer successful?
Great question. So essentially, I think one of the biggest things that we need to have is the ability to have great conversations. Like I said before, asking lots of questions, being able to deep dive. I will say that this industry is both for introverts and extroverts, though. Okay, so there are people who do not want to talk to anybody and never want to have a conversation, and they're okay with that. Yet they're extremely successful in this business. Why? Because they find ways that for them to be able to communicate, which allows them to be successful, right? So that's essentially what it is. It's finding your particular skill set, which makes sense, and then using that skill set to attract clients and have great conversations with people, so that they can be empowered to prosper, right? They can be empowered to do what they need to do. The one thing that you never want to hear as a loan officer is, I never heard from him, or I can't really have a conversation with him or her. Because that's bad. You have to open that dialogue and have that great communication. So that's one skill set. Another skill set is you have to be extremely detailed and organized. For me, that was, the first couple of years in the industry, that's what I had to really, really tighten up on. And I tighten up once a month on it. My format and how I do business is very, very structured. I have a time block system where I time block everything in my calendar from the moment I wake up until the moment that I go to bed. And even my call blocks as far as attracting new clients, contacting my current clients, the people that I'm serving today that are in my pipeline and that I'm working to get pre-approved or get set into a home. People that are already under contract on a property. You have to have that skill set of being extremely organized, and it comes over time. But you have to make sure that you measure and track every piece of that puzzle, so that you're not left guessing what's going on with your files. Because essentially, this is how you get paid. This is how people trust you. You develop trust by having those conversations. Because once you go under contract again, you're going to have those conversations once a week with real estate agents, with attorneys, with sellers, with anybody that's in relation to this transaction. You have to have those conversations with them. So being extremely detailed and organized is another skill set that is probably the most important piece of the puzzle, because if not, I promise you, it'll be a challenge in this industry for you. Just because when you get a phone call, you need to be able to detail exactly what happened in that conversation. So that means you need a system so that you know who you talked to, at what time, what you discussed, and what you talked about. And then you get into your business and you start working, boom, the phone rings again. When the phone rings, you have to answer. You have to have that same level of conversation. Okay, what's going on? How can I help you? And it could be a new client. It could be a client that you're currently working with. It could be a real estate agent that's having a challenge with something that you need assistance with. And so you have to make sure that you dive in and have all of those activities ready to go, and continually working on them so that you can be successful in it. And like I said, that's one of the major things. One of the major challenges with loan officers today is being organized and detailed, and keeping a calendar, and keeping a task list, and following up and following through on everything that you're working on.
Perfect. No, thanks for explaining that. And it sounds like even if you don't have all of those skills right when you begin, one, you said that, it takes time to really develop those things, but I think it does also really start with just kind of being very self-aware of kind of where you stand, once you get to a starting point, and then exactly, okay, I'm really good at this, but I need to work on that. So then you're starting to kind of form that system around what you need to improve on until everything is kind of up to speed. And then you're just kind of, you're in motion, because it sounds like you're really on a lot of the day, or in terms sometimes of the week. Yeah.
24/7, 365, man. The moment that you're not the moment that you're not prospecting for new clients, the moment that you're falling behind on your client list, the moment that you're falling behind on calling someone back, it's a lost client. It's lost business. That's lost revenue. And then that's a tarnish on your reputation. So you want to make sure that you stay on par with all of that consistently and continually. And again, like you said, it's not something that happens overnight. You track and measure it. And even sometimes there's feedback, right? You be okay with soliciting that feedback and asking, how am I doing? Even with your clients, the people that you're currently working with, what else do you need from me? How can I help? How can I help you be more successful? That's a good question that I asked to my real estate professional. And listening. If they say, hey, man, I don't hear from you enough, I need to be able to understand, what's going on with my clients, and you're not delivering that for me. Okay, thank you for that feedback. I'll work to improve and really work to implement better communication, be it email, be it text message, or what have you. Learn to listen to that feedback, even though sometimes you may not agree. And that transcends every industry, I believe, not having a huge ego as it relates to it. Just listening, having an understanding that that's what they're feeling, getting to the root of why they feel that way, and learning to move forward and making them feel a little bit better. Because during the transaction, there's going to be some ebbs and flows. There may be some challenges. They will remember the end of the transaction and how you made them feel more than anything else in the process.
Perfect. And yeah, it sounds like there's a lot of transferable skills, even from different industries that kind of fall within this realm. So that's really good to hear. Now, one thing that you alluded to is that, that there are, education paths, where you can go to college, or you can take some specific courses to start to get you acclimated and trained for the profession. But what would you say are maybe the general education requirements, for this type of work?
Honestly, it really depends. Many people in our industry have bachelor's degrees in various fields all over the place, from English to biology, just varying degrees. And I think, and a lot of times when recruiters are looking for new talent as it relates to mortgage professionals, they're not looking for somebody that's extremely polished in some senses. Of course, if you're a top producer, bringing in a lot of volume, then they're always going to be working to call you or what have you. They really don't care about what you did, where you went to college, what your profession was. Not to say that it's not important. Most of the companies that seek for loan officers require you to have a 4-year degree, or at least some education, because it helps to polish you, it helps to refine you a little bit. It gives you the basic skill set of what you need to do in this business. The business is a lot of math too. So that core skill set is important. So when you're looking at online, when you're looking on LinkedIn, a lot of times they will say having a 2 or a 4-year degree is important, but they don't really often specify what type of 2-year degree or what type of 4-year degree, because the skill set is in what we're doing right here. It's in having that communication and that conversation, and from that conversation, having them believe that you're capable of meeting clients, helping them with the home ownership, and closing their transaction. At the end of the day, if you're able to do that, then you're fine.
Cool, cool. Thank you for explaining that. Now, another step into that is kind of the pay structure. So, we at least when we, for outsiders, is hearing about different, real estate agents, they may just be completely commissioned. Whatever their grind is, that kind of reflects on what their pay is. But it may not always look like that. It might actually be salaried in this case, for the mortgage loan officer, or it might be commission, or it might be a mix of both. So what have you seen in your experience? And I'm sure it's different on the operation side versus the sales side. So could you kind of go over the two?
Yeah, on the operation side, you're straight up, 15th in the end of the month. You're paid as a salary, you're paid as an hourly wage salary, good salary. You do really good there. And that's the structure typically with anybody within the operations staff, be it processing, underwriting, all the other positions on the back on the operations side. Yeah, you're a salaried or an hourly employee getting paid 40 hours a week, okay, bi-monthly. For sales can be a little bit different. There are different structures as far as how people get paid. Some people are paid straight up salary, and they're on the phone. They could be on the phone all day collecting inbound calls. Okay. Some people are paid salary with a commission structure. Some people are paid full on, straight up 100% commission. So it kind of varies. It really depends on what the mortgage company or agency is looking for, and how they structure the business around you being successful.
Okay.
Are you chasing business all by your own? Are you getting inbound calls? That sort of thing. So very varied, which is why I'm always encouraging people work to get into the industry. I think one of the biggest myths that I had when I first came into the industry was number one, that it was 100% commission. And as I was in here, I realized that may not necessarily be 100% the case. And that's a lot of fear that's drawn into it. When you're 100% commission. But I will say that being a person that gets commission, it's fun. It's a fun journey. It really is. It's tough, but so long as I think everything boils down to doing the right activities every single day. What are you doing to be successful? What are you doing on your off times? Like how is your business structured? I mean, once you work through that, then it becomes easier for you. But to jump in, you can be salaried, with commission, you can be 100% commission. Just kind of depends on the company and what they're looking for and how their payment structure.
Perfect. Now, I think, real estate is kind of one of those industries where you can work for a company, whether you're on the agent side or if you're in the loan side, where you're working under a company, but you have that flexibility of really marketing yourself as an individual. What types of things would you advise either potential or new loan officers in terms of marketing themselves? What types of things have you found to be successful, or maybe that you've seen your colleagues do and that has worked for them when it comes to, attracting clients and really presenting themselves in a very professional manner?
Good question. That largely depends on the mortgage company and who you work for. Some of the mortgage companies will allow you to brand yourself as part of their branch, as part of their company, which is great. There's structure around it though, and so for example, some mortgage companies, as long as you have a business Facebook page with a company logo on it, you can create content, but that content typically has to be approved by the mortgage company. Okay. So it has to be content that they've either curated for you that you can just upload. It can be content that you discuss, but it has to be, like I said, it has to be measured. They will look at it and make sure that it's compliant. Compliance is one of the biggest things that we worry about in this industry, making sure that we're safe and what we're doing makes sense and is legal. Okay. There's things that we can legally discuss online and things that we cannot. So we have to make sure that we balance that line well. For me, what I've learned to do is I've learned to create a brand within a brand. My mortgage company is my mortgage company. They house me. I have the ability to lend in all 50 states, blessed beyond measure to do so. I have an Instagram page that I've created, and I've created my own particular logo just specific to me. My content is really geared around education. So the education piece helps me to have those good conversations and content without having to technically worry about, the legalities of a challenge that I would put myself in or my company in. And so you have to learn to thread a line and make sure that it makes sense. And so a lot of times when you see my content on my social media, I don't talk anything about the mortgage industry in itself. But I do discuss certain things as it relates to the mortgage industry. Okay. So for certain things that relates, I can technically, I typically talk about pre-approvals, how pre-approval works. I can typically talk about types of homes. I can typically talk about general types of loan products. If I get into the weeds and talk specific to my mortgage company, it has to be scrubbed, it has to be vetted, it has to be verified. So just learn to thread the line. One thing that I'm learning to do, I should say, is I'm learning to build my brand more on the social media pages. I was a little afraid of it. Don't really like Facebook that much, even though I have like 3,000 people, 3,000 friends on Facebook. And I've got 1,000 people on Instagram. I've got well over 1,700 people on LinkedIn. I'm learning to create better content. So good conversations. People are more drawn to you than they are the organization or the company that you work for. Now, sometimes, yes, because you work for a company and you have a specific product that companies may not have, it definitely makes you, it gives you the ability to say yes more, right? So people will seek you specific because of the fact that you work for a particular organization. However, they will more seek you when they understand you and they learn that they can like you and trust you. And I think if you can exhibit that on your social media pages, then you're more likely to get clients. And thankfully, I've been able to do that just because of the simple content that I post. Like I said, I do not do a lot of mortgage related topics when I have conversations, but every picture that I've been doing lately, and I'm starting to do more, is curated around something to do with homes, something to do with family, something to do with enjoying time together. Because when you're buying a home, it makes up all of that. You're buying a home for your children to have backyards to play in. You're buying a home to have a barbecue with friends coming over. You're buying a home to have a video game den to play video games in. All of those things. Your movie night, what have you. How can I create content that still frames that framework without necessarily tagging mortgage or tagging something else on it? Because and the other piece, and I know I'm a little long on this question, is you have to be creative, because if you're just posting ads, people will turn you off. Oh, this guy's trying to sell me something. I'm just going to turn off. I can't listen to it. I can't do this. Oh, I need to unsubscribe from his pictures because everything he talks about has to do with a mortgage.
Yeah.
I had to learn to go around that and just create good content about me, about my family, about what I'm doing, about what makes sense. I started doing. I need to start doing this to thank you for reminding me. I used to do Sunday Thoughts. Sunday Thoughts was something that I tagged on LinkedIn, where I would literally just blog about something. It could be life. It could be my kid losing his tooth. It could be something simple. People resonate with that content, and that helps you grow your following. And it just so happens that you're in the mortgage industry. So guess what? They say, and I remember you're in the mortgage industry. I have a question about this, or I have a question about that. My emails come in and text messages come in just from that. without having to really post that I'm a mortgage person. My tags say mortgage. On my Facebook, my cover photo has something to do with mortgage, but everything else is just content curated around family, love, and being.
Yeah, and I think that makes you more relatable in that sense and more approachable when it comes to things that are now more into the expert, the content expert level of the actual work that you do. Yeah, I think that's really good that you are finding those ways and finding those things that are not playing into it, but just really embracing the experience of what, somebody's trying to achieve when they're getting a home, and you're showing that understanding and that empathy. I've heard somebody say that there isn't enough empathy in the world, and so when you're able to kind of see that, like you said, kind of put into that content, it does attract people, and like you said, build that trust.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
Yeah, absolutely, perfect. So, we've already kind of gone into the entry level positions and things of that nature. But, especially kind of jumping back to the pay structure, let's say that somebody is looking at an opportunity that might be commissioned, let's say that it's fully commissioned for the sake of the question. But how would you advise somebody to financially prepare for that type of transition? I know that you've kind of had a similar experience when going from one industry to this one, but what types of things would you advise folks to do when it comes to preparing financially before jumping in?
So it brings me back to the conversation I had with my leadership when I was making the transition. Sales is a great industry. You're going to make a lot of money. You're going to have a lot of fun doing it. It's hard, very hard work. It's not easy at all, but it's rewarding. You have to understand that in life, there's going to be a pendulum swing, right? So a pendulum does this. So it's from one end to the other every single time. Okay, it's a pacing to it. It's a timing to it. So when having the conversation about going into a commissioned position, you realize that you're going to have a pendulum swing. People are typically used to having paychecks on the 15th and the end of the month, and that's good. That's stable. But what happens when the pendulum swings? Now you have to start to slowly build your business right, over time. It's not going to happen overnight. There's millions of ways to build this business. The organic way is typically the best way. And creating a following is slowly growing and building relationships with partners that are going to help you in that effort. But be understanding that it is a pendulum swing, and sometimes it hurts because it's gonna be tight. I would probably say make sure that you have at least I don't know, because it depends on the lender. I would say at least 6 months to a year of money kind of saved up. It helps if you have a partner. If you're married, sometimes I was able to do it because my wife was working full time, and so in the months where we were really, really tight, we were able to get by. Some people jump, and the fear of not having a paycheck helps them succeed too. So it just really depends on everybody's financial situation, what makes sense. You want to make sure that when the checks aren't coming in, that you are able to sustain yourself. What does that look? It looks different for each family, but you want to make sure that you're sustaining yourself. And then once you do that, as you start to build business, then you can start to really rely on a steady flow of income coming in. And then it's basically an output business. The more you put in, the more effort that you have, the more return that you have on your investment over time. So I don't want people to have a fear of jumping, though, in that aspect, because some people will say, well, if that's the case, if I have to have a year saved up, 6 months saved up, I'll never do it. Well, that might be true, but it's really what you make of it. Before I made the jump, I personally paid down a lot of my debts, so I didn't have to worry about a huge pendulum swing or an adjustment. I tightened up on all of our finances and budgeted and made sure everything was really good. And then I also budgeted for what it looks like what it would look like in my first year as a loan officer. What does it look like having, 12 transactions in a year? What does that make up? How is that from a compensation perspective? What makes sense? And having those real conversations helps. You want to be able to track everything, track your progress. It goes back to what I was saying before about learning to grow your business, being able to track everything. So it depends on the person, depends on the financial situation, but definitely seek counsel and have a conversation with people, with the company that you're courting. Having a pay structure is very important. Find out what that pay structure looks like. Find out if it's temporary structure where you're, salaried for a few months and then they jump you into commission. Or, if you're starting out, there are some positions called junior loan officers where they'll pay you a salary. They'll pay you a salary for a set amount of time so that you can learn a business. And then after that salary is up, it's on you. So it just really depends.
Nice. I'm glad that you mentioned the whole junior loan officer position. Definitely, as some of our listeners are probably either in college or kind of working towards that, so they can even have that position in mind, and they might not have as many responsibilities that to kind of work through, but it's so good to have that thought process of, okay, how is this going to work? What is this going to look like? Compared to if I were to have a salary position, and kind of put those things in place, so that they can be successful without having so much of that pressure when making that transition. So I'm glad that you mentioned that position.
And I know that there are companies, real quick, especially for college students, college graduates and things of that sort. There are organizations that are literally looking for people to come into this organization, especially minorities, especially Black folks, especially people of color. The average loan officer in this industry is 54 years old. There's not a lot of young loan officers in this field, not a lot of loan officers in this space that are very young. So there's a huge gap. When there's gap, there's opportunity, though, for those who are able to do it. So I would encourage people to seek organizations. There's an organization called NAMBA that I chartered in Chicago, locally here. It's actually based in Atlanta, Georgia. NAMBA is the National Association of Minority Mortgage Bankers of America. If you go to namba.org, you'll look, and on that website, you'll actually see that they are looking for college students, looking for college graduates. And what does that do? That creates internship opportunities. That creates opportunities for people to jump right into the field and jump into the space. There are companies that are literally creating positions for our college students, for our college graduates. And they know that you're a college student, you coming out of college and you're going right into a field that you don't know anything about. It's very difficult for you to make a transition into 100% commission. So they'll create success plans or success tracks for you. They're seeking you. So again, it goes back to don't be discouraged and don't feel like you have to just jump into an industry cold feet. There's programs, there's organizations that are literally designed to help you put your best foot forward in relation to that, so that you can be empowered to do well in this industry. Like I said, we are looking for people, and I think it's important for people to feel the fear of it and just jump anyway and just go into it and create those relationships with folks. So, in this is going to be broadcast all over. Yeah. There's a NAMBA chapter all over. National Association of Mortgage Bankers. National Association of Minority Mortgage Bankers of America. NAMMBA.org. Good website, good resource, great people that are looking for talent.
Awesome. I'm sure there's a great amount of support when it comes to that. And, kind of on the same lines, in your opinion, with you having this much time in the industry and kind of seeing the ins and outs, I'm sure you've, seen, said politics and things like that. What's your opinion on why there aren't as many Black people or aren't any minorities within this industry? And I'm sure that this organization is a great push for, more representation, but, what kind of other efforts are you seeing to, change that reality?
I think the biggest thing is just fear of the unknown. People don't know that this is a career for us that we can go into. It's just largely fear of the unknown because there are a lot of people that are in the operations side.
Mm.
There are a lot of people of color, a lot of minorities on the operations side. I think there's great opportunity on the sales side, for all of us. And that's in every industry. In every industry, you will see that there is I don't want to say a disconnect, but there are less people of color that are on the sales side or in the sales field. There's really no reason for it. I think anybody who has the ep to do it should jump in both feet and go and do it. But it requires empowering, right? And it requires those conversations with people to let them know that this is an amazing industry to be a part of. You will always find people on the sales side in real estate, right? There's a lot of real estate folks, not so much on the mortgage side. And we can work to change that narrative and to get people in there. I don't believe that that there is any less opportunity for us to be successful in this field. Personally, like I said, everybody's different, but everybody has their own tribe. Everybody has people that they can relate to, people that they can grow with, that know, like, and trust them, that are looking to build business, that are looking to create wealth and generational wealth in the places where they live. And create economic empowerment and investment. And so the way to do that is to go into these fields and to work them and to be very good at it. So like I said, I think that's a great opportunity for a lot of people. But it's probably fear of the unknown. They just don't know that this is an opportunity and a position to go into. And it's easily transferable. There are tons of people in other sales positions that are looking for a change. You would probably want to consider going into sales. The other piece is, I think people got a little scared off from the crash, from the mortgage industry crash back in 2006, 2007, 2008. They felt like it was an unstable industry to get involved in. So they wanted something that was a lot more stable, first in the 15th, no issues. So for me, I think for me personally, it was the fear of the unknown. I didn't know what sales was. I didn't know what a loan officer was. Even when I was in the operations side, I saw these guys in suits, and I knew I supported them in some way, and I helped their clients. I had no idea what they did, and truly, it was in conversation with a leader, with somebody that's in management, about the position and about what it was that made me want to hit the go button, that made me really intrigued about it. That, and my wife was like, "Son, but you should always be in sales. Like, you should have never stopped. You have the gift of gab, blah, 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 go, go, go."
Uh-huh.
But I think it was important. So I think it's just a matter of education, people understanding that this is a fantastic field to get into, and then going, and just going, finding out where the opportunities are, finding out how this stuff works, reaching out to local loan officers in your area, people that you may know or may not know. LinkedIn is ridiculous. It's a ridiculous search tool. It is something that it's an amazing search tool for people that learn how to use it. So if you're able to find, you're literally able to find your market and find loan officers and friend them and ask them questions. Loan officers, managers, the whole nine. There's a way to get into this industry, and there's a way for you to make a track in it. It's just a matter of going for it.
Perfect. Yeah, the power of networking, I can see it is a great tool, and I really do hope that it excites people. Knowing that there is room for the opportunity because there aren't as many spaces taking up within it. The flexibility of the type of education that you can have, the flexibility of the personalities. You mentioned both introverts and extroverts can find success within this, and I think sales, it does scare people, especially if they're not comfortable with that type of setting. But a lot of what you do is that communication aspect, that building relationships with people, and finding that common ground, so that when it comes down to the actual technicalities of the things that you do, it makes for a simple transition when you're kind of moving through that conversation. So So this was great. This was definitely good information. I'm glad that you're able to share that. Now, before we do wrap up, I want to do something a little bit lighthearted, just kind of getting your opinions on just a few things, just kind of see where you stand on there. So just, five quick questions. So the first one is, what experience would you prefer between these two, going to the movie theater or having movies at home?
Oh, well, seeing as though we're in a pandemic, going to the movie theater would be an amazing experience, man. Movie night at the house has been good. We have a nice little setup. But man, there's nothing like that movie theater popcorn, man. Just going in and enjoying. I don't know if it's gonna feel good being able to do it, again. So I would say that.
Yeah. I would say that's probably one of the experiences. Even I don't do it that often, that I miss a lot with this whole.
I only go to the movies 3 or 4 times a year. Because most of the time I just don't watch movies right when they come out, because people on social media can tend to ruin it, because they'll tell you everything about the movie and what's going on and how they like it and enjoy it.
Yeah.
There's a movie that's out right now on Netflix that I refuse to watch because I want to be able to take time and literally enjoy it. So yeah, but I will say 3 times a year, man, I really miss going to the movie theater right now.
Absolutely. All right. So Apple or Spotify?
So I own Apple. I have all Apple products. However, I use Amazon Music. But I will say Apple, if it's just Apple or Spotify, I do like Apple over Spotify.
Okay. Yeah, I was thinking if Amazon kind of got into the podcast space, I think it would probably be over.
Yeah, true. You know what? And Amazon, if you notice, Amazon is slowly making the transition into the podcast space. But without a doubt, man, for podcasts, everything that I do is through Apple. I listen to podcasts all day. It's all educational content. I listen to it a lot.
Perfect. All right. Now, wipe away the pandemic. You're at the cookout. What are you most likely doing?
Barbecue.
You're on the grill. On the grill.
100%.
There you go. Now
on the grill.
Do you have the whole setup? Do you have the sandals, the apron, everything?
It's not just the sandals, it's the sandals with the white socks.
There you go.
And then the apron, that is totally me. Yep.
Perfect. All right. Now, in terms of games, are you playing spades or are you playing Uno?
Spades.
Okay.
Question.
All right.
It was a tough one. That was a tough one.
Yeah. Tougher than people normally think. Now, follow up with that. Are you playing with jokers or are you not playing with jokers?
Oh, man. We're going to start you got to play with jokers, man. You got to play with jokers.
Yeah. You could
jokers,
definitely
and you have to have a solid table.
Yeah, because those can start some fighting words.
Listen,
I know that
true,
for sure,
man.
Perfect. All right. Now, last question. Now, if your response to somebody, whether that's through phone or text or whatever, is "I'm on my way," where are you?
So this is what my wife would say. My wife would say, if I'm on my way, that means I'm leaving the house.
Okay.
Lately, as I've grown into my business and making sure that being, time is of the essence. When I'm on my way, I usually give a timetable as to when I'll be there. I'll be there in 15 minutes. I'll be there in 20. And because of Waze, I'm pretty accurate.
Yeah. I feel like work will kind of help you tighten up on that because, before everything, responsibilities and stuff like that, you're probably still in bed kind of texting that message out.
I'm on my way. Yeah, and like I said, I used to get in trouble a lot with that because my wife was like, "Where are you?" I said I was on my way. I never really said when. But now everything's timed. She literally has access to my calendar, so she'll know, okay, he's going to be here at this time.
Mm-hmm.
Or at least he better.
Perfect. All right. Well, Jason, that's all I got for you, man. I really appreciate your time and your, your knowledge and, and empowerment, things that are kind of, in the foundation of what you just do on a day-to-day basis. Before we do wrap up, is there anything that you want to promote, to plug, any last words for our listeners?
So first of all, man, thank you so much. Thank you again for the opportunity to come on here and just share what I do. We rarely get an opportunity to just discuss what we do and why we love it and enjoy it so much.
Yeah.
The reason that I really got into the sales side of the mortgage industry is my son was born. And when he was born and crawling around a lot, I was like, hey, man, it would be really good for him to take his first steps in our home, the home that we purchased, right? Still in the operation side. And he ended up taking steps at my parents' house, not mine.
Oh, no.
But that journey and in that conversation, that's pretty much, that created my mantra, of making sure that I help people finance the dream of homeownership and I give children backyards to play in. And it's very rewarding and I enjoy it. So for the opportunity to share what we do, man, I appreciate you. I am followable. You can follow me on social media, Jason Mitchell Mortgages. Very simple. Jason Mitchell Mortgages on Instagram. Not really too much on Facebook, but if you search in Jason Mitchell in the Chicagoland area, you'll see me, as well as LinkedIn. I'm on that as well. Nothing really to promote just yet. I know that there's a lot of things on the rise for Jason Mitchell Mortgages for 2021 that you'll be on the lookout for. And the only way you'll know is if you're tuned into our social media.
Perfect. Well, we'll definitely be tuned in. I'm excited to kind of see what you have in store. So again, thanks, Jason, for everything. Thanks to everybody who's been listening. As always, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the podcast. We are on YouTube. We are on Apple, Google, Spotify. We're all over the place. We're also on social media. That's Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. That's at InQuire Hire. And we also have InQuireHire.com. We got a lot of great information there. We do specialize in college preparation. So if you need any type of help in any part of your college search journey, we would definitely love to be there and be that extra guidance for you. So feel free to reach out there. Until next time, thanks for listening again, and peace to you.